Guys, gals, and pals, welcome back to Paint and Talk episode 25. Quarter of the way to 100 already. Pretty crazy. As always, I hope you guys have had a slightly worse than yesterday, but still solid day today. As always, we try and keep these things realistic. And today, I want to talk about content. Content is something that has come up kind of a lot on, Paint and Talk and my channel, and just, I think I talk about it a lot. Always a little bit of a tricky conversation to navigate, just because, I don't know if it's tricky, actually. I think I just come off crazy doing it, because, I don't know, there's always an irony to it, you know what I mean? I have a relatively negative outlook on content as a whole, and there's definitely an irony to the fact that, I am here making a YouTube video in which I paint and talk, while talking about, content being our art form now is really something, blah, 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 And, I do understand there's an irony to that, and I'm a little bit of a hypocrite for it, but I think content's still really interesting because it's kind of our new medium now. Just like how, they say TV defined, was it the 70s or 80s when TV was really the thing? Just how they say TV defined that. Content is definitely defining our lives right now, and I think art has this strange way of doing that, right? Where it comes in and it's the biggest thing in the world for a minute, I don't think I started this right. So I'm doing a sphere today. At the end of yesterday's Paint and Talk, if you guys recall, I said I just want to work on my blending skills a little bit. So I'm going to make an effort to do that here with a sphere. I think I'm supposed to start darker over here though. We'll make it work. We'll make this work. We'll save this, guys. Not to worry. But I think we're in one of those rare moments right now that comes once every, you had it with, I think radio was probably the 1930s, right? You had it, the 1920s was movies, right? When that was a huge thing. It was theater was the big thing everyone was doing. So you get these things every now and again where it's a new art form really comes to define an era. It's interesting too, because you always know it's big when the president hops on the content, or not the content, when the president hops on the art form. That's how you know something big is going down. For an example, FDR did his fireside chats with radio. I don't know who the president in the 1920s was. Gonna guess he loved movies though, maybe. TV, the Richard Nixon and Kennedy debate was defined by the TV debate going on. You know what I mean? I think it's interesting how you can always see their connection to the world and content. You have the same thing right now. Think about the fact that there was that press conference where regarding the whole TikTok ban thing, which is, a huge, obviously, mechanism where content's produced. You had Trump being oh, I think I want to keep it because it helped me out a lot in this last election. Which, ignoring all the politics of that, it just goes to show that, we have the president being I realize content helped me win this election. That's crazy. That's insane. That's a huge, huge thing. And I think content is, such an interesting thing for that because, one, we're kind of lucky in a sense, right? We're living through this really cool, insane time where we get to see a new art form sweep and change the world. Two, there's lots of opportunity with it, but there's also a lot of negatives with it. And I think as a kind of a cursory blanket statement to all this, I think whenever a huge new form of art comes along, this kind of happens, right? Where all the doom and gloom surrounding it is huge. I know there was all the stuff of oh, heavy metal is the devil, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that anything, this isn't obviously the exact same as what's going on with content right now and the bad implications of it, but there is always some sort of a negative sentiment around the new art form coming out. I wonder if, I don't know this for sure, but I would be willing to bet that when movies were a big thing, that people were probably oh, I bet these movies are bad for us, I don't know for sure. But what I will say is that content's an interesting spot because it's the first time that a form of art is I will be referring to content as a form of art here, by the way. Because one, I believe that, and two, it's the easiest way to refer to it as just the newest form of entertainment that everyone's consuming. I'm gonna refer to it as a medium, right? It's the first time that content as a medium is directly has evidence that it's not that great, right? And it's also interesting because, heavy metal, everyone thought it was the devil. There was a huge panic over heavy metal. But if you talk to anyone who's listening to heavy metal, they'd be like, no, like that's not, or maybe as a joke, they'd be like, oh yeah, it's, you know, it's the devil itself. But like everyone who was in that group understood, no, this is not a bad thing. This is just a new form of rock music, right? Same deal with Playboi Carti now. How everyone says he is the Antichrist, and everyone knows, you know, everyone that listens to Playboi Carti is like, no, it's just, you know, he's just doing the same thing now with Doja Cat. You know, these things happen, and people in the in-group recognize that all the people panicking in the out-group are being silly, right? Content's different, though, in that everyone who's consuming content is like, this is bad. This is bad for me. And I think we recognize it because we don't feel great. Also, because it's so capturing that it takes up all of our time. Like, I think there's reasons for it, but that makes it a very interesting thing because it's kind of the first time that that's happened, right? And there's a lot of net goods, but also net bads to content, which is why I don't like shitting on it. I kind of do that, right? I shit on content a lot, and I don't love that because, like, I think it's important to recognize that, like, I might have just gotten paint on my face, so that'd be so embarrassing. But I don't like shitting on content, which I feel like I do kind of a lot, because, like, there are a ton of net goods to it. The fact that I'm here painting, and, you know, maybe someone's watching this and really connects right now, or maybe someone's inspired to paint and they discover a new hobby. You know, I can connect from my room, from just setting up cameras and painting and yapping for 20 minutes. Like, I can truly like connect with people, you know what I mean? I've made friends off of stuff like this. I make some money off stuff like this. And that's like an empowering thing that I could never, like in the past, if I wanted to broadcast one of these episodes to 100 people, let alone the thousands that this content has reached, like I would have to go to a network, I'd have to pitch it, I'd have to come up with like a million different things, and then like have a shot at making it a reality, right? Nowadays though, like I can just set up cameras, and if people like it, people are gonna watch it. That's awesome. That's a net good, right? I think the spread of information is also a net good. The way that we can see things through content is awesome. Because like it just is, you know what I mean? We don't have people who control the flow of information anymore, at least not in the same way. I mean, I've seen cases in the last year or so that are slightly concerning with that. But like, I think that on the large scale, I could make the statement of like, we have the ability to share information in a very democratized way right now. And I think that's great. I think that's also a net good. There are a lot of net goods with content, and that's why, like I said, don't love the fact that I have this outlook on it, right? However, there's a lot of bad stuff about content, and I think that it might outweigh I don't know if it outweighs the good. Maybe that's what we'll try and discover today. I doubt I'll be able to come up with an answer to that because it's kind of a big question, right? But I think there's a lot going both directions. For an example, content has kind of led to like us not having any dominant culture anymore. Sports definitely still have one, but in terms of like art, who we watch, who we consume on a daily basis, we don't have a monoculture the same way that we once did. You know, you could turn to the guy next to you at the bar or wherever you were hanging out and be like, did you see the season finale of Seinfeld? And they'd be like, oh yeah, no, I completely know what you're talking about. I understand that. We all have the same TV. We can now relate on this level. We do not have that anymore. We probably never will again. That's big, and I think that's bigger than we like think it is even. At least I feel like it's bigger because back then when you all know you watched the same episode of TV last night, whether you know this person or not, you know you watched that episode, it's so much easier to strike up a conversation. It's so much easier to make a friend because you know that. And think of like, maybe some people can relate to this. I know I can though. In my life, a lot of good friends I've made is because they're wearing a t-shirt of something I know I like. So for an example, as a kid, when I was super into comics, people wearing like a Spider-Man t-shirt. Oh, you like Spider-Man? And I made a lot of friends who were just into Spider-Man because they wore a Spider-Man t-shirt, right? Now imagine that if I knew that everyone on Earth was into Spider-Man, or at least everyone in America, you know, going back to that example of the Seinfeld episode. if I knew like every single person I'm going to come across today, I think it had like over 100 million viewers. There's a 1 in 3 chance that I strike when I say, do you like Seinfeld? Did you watch the episode last night? That's huge. And I think we maybe even underestimate how much that affects like our ability to talk to each other, because that is a big thing, you know? And culture used to move like that, you know? Even with music, I feel like Michael Jackson and the Beatles were so big that like you could talk to anyone about them. And nowadays, I mean, I guess Drake has kind of captured that same success, but like I can't have a conversation with anyone about being a Drake fan, really. Like, I don't know. I also have to, like, granted, I don't listen to much Drake. I've listened to like I have like a couple songs by him that I enjoy, but like I would not say I'm a big Drake fan. So maybe I could have a conversation about being a Drake fan with somebody, but I feel like it's not the same way as like I know everyone in the world's gonna, because a lot of the times when you mention something like that, I'll be like, I don't listen to rap. That happens a lot, right? So even we're so split off by genre, whereas back in the day, everyone was listening to Michael Jackson or the Beatles. Those are big. We also don't have mania anymore, which is like, it's such a funny term, how like they had Turtle Mania with the Ninja Turtles, Simpsons Mania with the Simpsons, Beatles Mania with the Beatles. Where'd that go? This is completely a sidebar thing, but like I've seen so many old news reports of them being like, oh my God, we're in the midst of Turtle Mania, and they show up a picture of the Ninja Turtles. Why aren't we in any manias anymore? Are we in a Mr. Beast mania? Could we say that? Because I feel like if anyone were in a mania for, it'd be Mr. Beast, right? He has so many people watching those videos. So we're probably in Beast Mania right now, but no one's willing to call it that. That's actually another interesting thing that it's not really too related, but I totally believe it. So I have a conspiracy theory that I have made and I believe in. I think the news and traditional media covers content in a bad light on purpose. Like, I genuinely think they try and do smears of content. I fully believe this. You will not convince me otherwise, because there's just not, like, it's so strange how my parents, even older cousins, older friends of mine, who are maybe like a little bit outside the range, that be watching and hyper consuming content, right? These people in my life, you know, when they come to me and mention something, when it's really bad, I had 5 people come up to me and mention the Hawk Tuah coin. That like never, I don't know a single thing about what content they consume. I know nothing about it. 5 people have mentioned it in my life since it happened. That when she did that crypto rug pull. That's not normal. That's a little weird, right? So I fully do believe that there is a conspiracy that the media does not want to cover content in a positive light, because it's fully destroying them, because content's way more fun to watch than the news. I'm a big believer in this, because like you're telling me that the Hawk Tuah coin, something that I don't even care about, as someone who's like fairly chronically online, like not like I used to be worse, but like I still do know like a little too well what's going on Twitter, right? Someone like me, why do you care about this more than me? And it's like, why is the news publishing articles on Hawk Tuah coin? And they referred to her as like the biggest new social media influencer. No, she's not. Nobody is looking at her stuff being like, this is the new big thing. She does not have half the impact as Mr. Beast does. And you cannot convince me otherwise. I'm not trying to glaze Mr. Beast. I'm just like using him as an example because he's the biggest. Like if you're telling me his 100 million view video is not getting any news coverage, why is the Hawk Tuah coin getting it? And I fully think that there's like a slant against it. Even Mr. Beast's new Amazon show, which by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it in any of these. I watched a little bit of it. I don't know. I couldn't get into it, right? I just don't think I'm the target audience. Anyways though, that's besides the point. Even that, right, which is I think, like, if I'm not wrong, putting up some of the biggest numbers in television history, like at least from what I've seen when I see stats about it, that is all the news coverage I see is like, Mr. Beast show is doing pretty good, but there are accusations that he's the Antichrist, and like they will fully just do another article on the accusations about him, and there's no new accusations. Like they just recycle the old ones to get another article out of it, instead of writing just like, oh, his show's doing really well right now. Like, it's weird. There's something, they don't like content. I don't know why. Maybe a lot of these people in like, who are writing for like Entertainment Weekly, see it as like below them to write for content, so they just don't do it. But like, I don't know. It's something's up, guys. Something is afoot. I'll be the first to say it. I'm blowing the whistle on this. And also, going back for a second to the positives of content, you cannot show me a place in the world where there's more creativity than in content. I have seen genuine like geniuses making YouTube videos, and that's awesome. Like that is probably one of my favorite things about content, is someone with just a camera and an idea can make something really, really cool. And I can watch it. I think that's super cool. Now, unfortunately, I wish there was like a way that this success these awesome levels of creativity we see on our feeds every day, I wish there was more of a route for it to make it to traditional media. I don't know why there's no crossover. I think like at this point, to me, the likelihood of people just like content just outflanking media on being the big thing people watch, I think there's more of a likelihood for that than there is for content creators to make more crossover. Because I've seen YouTube videos from people. Oh my God, there's this one girl who makes these like TV vlogs or something. And it's like you watch it and you're just like, you are 10 times more talented than the guys directing the most basic movies out right now. And I know a lot of these industries have to do with nepotism and all these things, but that person deserves to be in a big position doing something really cool. And I just wish there was more of a route for that. Because the amount of people you see on a daily basis are just like total geniuses in their room making YouTube videos is awesome. And for that, I will always say content is, in my opinion, a net good because of that reason alone. I'm a huge fan of that as someone who's into all this stuff, who's really into art. I am the biggest fan of the world of the fact that like we are seeing more than ever now people pop up and make the coolest things from their room. Back to the negatives though, of culture, those people who in the past would be someone like a Quentin Tarantino, a David Lynch, a Wes Anderson, who when they release movies, their diehard fans go to see them and they get everyone talking. Now they're making YouTube videos, and I think the culture kind of reflects that. Like, I think we're in a place where I'm kind of just recycling points from my social media video now, I feel like. But like, there's not, like, I feel like too many people are making good stuff on YouTube and there's not as much good stuff in movies anymore. I think a lot of this has to do with like the times too. I think some of this might have to do less with content and more of just like where the world is right now. Because I think you could make a small budget movie about something fun and take a risk easier in the 80s. I think I was looking at data about that once, that like it was easier to do it back then. So maybe that's a part of it too. But the main thing I'm interested in is the lack of a monoculture. And I wanna actually throw out real quick, just, you know, throw it to you guys. Do you think this is getting better? Because I think, strangely so, last year, there were two big things that happened where everyone in the world knew about them. People on the streets were talking about them. And I'm of course referring to Drake and Kendrick and Brat by Charlie XCX, right? Brat was definitely, I think, more just confined to some areas I was in, so maybe that wasn't as big as I think it is. I was seeing a ton of people who just like really were into it though, and Drake and Kendrick, no joke, I'm telling you guys, I saw a guy walking around singing Not Like Us. Like it felt like I was in the 1930s having someone outside listening to that. And I talked to him, I had a whole conversation about it. And those were two big moments of monoculture this year where like, it was like everyone knew about something. So I wonder if like that could be indicative of things are changing, getting a little bit better. Because, you know, I don't know, I think I want to rephrase that. Getting a little bit better infers there's like something very inherently wrong with this. And like, there's not, right? Like there's not something inherently wrong with having multiple, like having not one big culture that everyone's tapped into all the time. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. I think I would just like it more if I could have more conversations out in the real world about art that I like. I think this is more of a me thing than anything else. I think there's probably a lot of people who maybe feel the same way, because this is not the first time I'm seeing my own sentiment, but I think that I do think that it's not an inherent wrong thing. There being like all these different things, right? And I think the monoculture doesn't exist more on social media than it doesn't exist in real life. Like, I do think that too, that like if you walk up to someone in real life, there's still, Taylor Swift is still an artist you can bring up to anyone and they'll know who she is. Maybe they won't like her, but they'll know her, you know what I mean? And I think that's also something to note. So I think maybe it exists more online with the creators that we watch. I think that might be a more accurate thing to say. Anyways, though, I think also one of the reasons that content is getting the kind of negative reception that it is, like from the people consuming it. Like one of the reasons people don't like TikTok and are like, I hate being on my phone all day on TikTok. I think it might even have less to do with TikTok and more to do with what's going on right outside of TikTok, Instagram, the space, where we don't have third spaces anymore, right? This is something that there are endless videos essays on, like 1 billion, and we don't have these anymore. And because of that, content has been a third space for all of us, right? You are watching me paint right now instead of going to a painting class and watching someone else do it. That's an example of how like content has definitely become a third space. And I think that like this has nothing to do with content, but if you were to make movies a third space for people back in the 70s, like fully just after you're done with schoolwork, whatever you do during the day, you're going to the movies alone, and like your social interaction will only be based around these movies and the people in the theater and what they say about the movie, I think it'd be better because it's in person. I don't think people would like that either though. I think we'd also be like hearing people go like, I don't know if watching these movies all day is great for us guys, because it wouldn't be. So I think that might be more the reason that content has this bad rap. Oh, that's an interesting point I should have put in the video when I made it. Because I think that there's an element of truth to that, of like, we have, like, content has been forced to become our third space, whereas, like, it shouldn't be, you know what I mean? If we had ample places to go, if you were going after school to, you know, the roller rink and the mall and to the diner and then driving to your friend's house to hang out, and then you consume content, it would be the same as a movie, right? Or it'd be the same as TV. I feel like that'd probably be the case, because we'd be consuming it on a more like, oh, it's my hour of TikTok time. Like, this is just a thing I'm doing real quick while I'm getting ready, I'm washing up for bed, I'm, you know, doing some homework, I'll throw it on in the background. That would be infinitely more, I think, liked than the way it is right now, where it's like, okay, I have nowhere to go, I'm gonna go home and like FaceTime a friend, maybe be at a friend's house. We're not gonna have that much to do, so I'll probably be on my phone a lot. I think if content was still, was in the form that like other art was in the past, maybe we'd like it more. Because I think also, the reason we're told that content is bad for us is because of comparison, right? Like, we're very much told like, oh, it's not good to sit on your phone all day and watch these people living cool, amazing lives. Think there's an element of truth to that, I do. I definitely have felt that in the past of like, oh man, I gotta stop comparing these people to me, you know what I mean? But I don't think that's all of it. I think it's more so we're seeing how fun our lives could be if we weren't, like if we were in just like an environment where we had more things to do. Because like, there's this book that I'm reading right now. It's called All My Friends Are Gonna Be Strangers by, oh my God, what's the author's name? It's so good, it's a great book. And it's basically just, it's about this guy, he's, you know, living life. In other words, he's about to become a big author, and he's going to California, and he's going to Texas, and he's like having flings with girls, and he's losing friends and gaining friends, and like walking into people's houses and becoming friends with them, and he's living an exciting life, right? That is not, and it's a realistic story. From what I've heard, I think it's fairly autobiographical of the author even. That's just not possible anymore. You can't live a life like that now. Like, you cannot live a life that's that interesting anymore, because there's nowhere to go to go like just meet random people. It's also seen as weird to walk up to people and say hi now, I feel like. Which again is kind of treading the same territory as the Paint& Talk a day or two ago, so I don't want to dive too deep into that. But, you know, like, because of all these things, I think we're not in an environment where you can live a life that's that interesting anymore. Where you can do all these things and live like a fun, rambunctious life. We're also told, which I don't believe this, but I'm also not outside testing it, so I can't say for sure. We're told that we're in a more dangerous world. Like, we're told, like, oh, in the 70s, everyone had their doors unlocked at night and they would, you know, prance around all day. And, like, we're told, like, you just can't do that anymore, though. You just can't do that. I would, if I were putting money on it, I would say you probably can do that still. Like, I think that crime is not that bad compared to the way it was. I think we're probably seeing more of it because of the news. And I think we're probably, like, overexposed to the point where we think there's more crime going on than there is. However, the fact of the matter is that if the whole world, or the community we're in, the communities we're in, say that like this is the way things are, that's how kind of things become. So nowadays, whereas like in this book, which I know it's, you know, a somewhat fictional book, it's based in reality, it's not actually reality, but it would happen where like in this book, this guy's just like walking up to someone's door and like, hey, I heard you're blah, 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 and I want you to just come over and say hi. You can't do that anymore because they would assume something's going on. We're told that all these scary things are happening all the time. So we're kind of not seeing the good in people. And because of that, you can't live a life that's more interesting, you know? Like you gotta like cold email now instead to meet interesting people. You can't just look them up in the phone book and show up at their house because that's seen as crazy now. Should it be seen as crazy? Maybe. Is it a little weird? I guess so. But like, I don't know. It's definitely, it was working. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't maybe a little crazy. Like it was definitely wasn't like the worst thing ever. You know, there were, just like there are pros and cons to everything I'm saying here today, there were definitely pros and cons to that. So like it wasn't the worst, you know? Okay, so I just took a chunk out of this sphere. I gotta pat myself on the back a little bit. This sphere came out way better than the last one, which it's been, actually I don't want to say anything. I'm gonna jinx it. I know I'm gonna jinx it. Do I have wood around here? I gotta just knock on some wood real quick when we finish up here because jinxing is real, guys. Jinxing is real and it's here. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why like I know I myself have like this weird desire to like just like hop a flight and just like go backpack around a random place. Whereas like I could totally have that much fun here in New York where I'm at, right? Like I live in a pretty interesting place. I think that's another weird thing about this. Like I definitely live in an interesting place. There are more coffee shops for me to go to than the average guy. Like I can go sit places. There like coffee bars do exist here, but like even I feel this way. So I can't imagine how guys in Kentucky feel. I've been coming at Kentucky a lot lately, and you know what? It's gonna stay that way because what are you doing in Kentucky? Like if you're in Kentucky, get out of there. Like come to a real state, you know? Because that's crazy to be in Kentucky. But like imagine having to deal with all these things going on and you're already in somewhere where there's not that much to do. Like I feel and see these things here in New York City. Like this is like, I see these things. Imagine other places, you know? Like that's crazy. Anyways, guys, this sphere's done. And honestly, listen, is it good? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say it's bad, but like I definitely, like I think people have made better spheres, so I'm not gonna toot my horn too much, but it's definitely an improvement from my last sphere that I did. So like that's something, right? Okay, let's try this. I don't know, guys. I don't know if that was necessary. I did the same thing in the last Paint and Talk where I added a little white dot, and I don't know if that was necessary either. We're here though, and there's a dot there now, and it's real. So, paint all over the hands, so you guys know the drill. Go check this out over on the Instagram, where you can see it from straight on, from different angles, and you can see the paint, and there's no filters, and all that good stuff. And until tomorrow, comment your thoughts down below. Actually, like I'll do a series one day. Comment your thoughts down below on content, how you feel about it. You know, if you think it's a net good or net bad. As I stated, we'll always say content's a net good just because of how much amazing stuff there is out there. But I very much do see the negatives too. So I do fully understand that position. That's not a bad thing. But let me know if let me know.